because the first edition of the French satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo is to feature a new cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad. As we've been hearing, the cartoon depicts the Prophet holding a Je suis Charlie sign and also with the words "All is forgiven" on that cover. Well, with me now is the Islamic affairs specialist Abdullah al Andalusi. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
One of the columnists, the surviving columnists from the Charlie Hebdo magazine, is saying that this new cover is about ensuring that his colleagues are not censored after their death. Do you accept that rationale, that reasoning?
Well, no doubt that's probably their motivation is trying to portray a sense of defiance in the face of the attacks and so on. But I don't think that that's really the issues that we should be focusing on. I mean, sure, the attacks were very horrific and should never have happened. But we shouldn't let that cloud the issue of the status of the Muslim community in France, how they're treated, demonized, vilified, denied rights. Women are denied the rights to wear what they want in public, to pray in public, and so on and so forth. And I think that it's because the Muslim community in France feel under siege, that when they see cartoons which humiliate, demonize, and insult, they feel like a kind of second-class citizen. They feel like a minority under siege. And they're not given the same protections as other communities, like the Jewish community is given.
Don't they feel, though, as people living in France, that they have the right to express themselves freely as any other citizen would have, though?
Well, I mean, just recently the comedian Dieudonné came up in some trouble because of what he said, where he said that Je suis Charlie Koulibaly, which is a mixture between Charlie Hebdo and one of the killers, and he got into trouble. There's talk of prosecution against him for what he said, and we see that France has these double standards when it comes to free expression, and he's fallen foul of this comedian many times, and I think what he shows is the hypocrisy, I suppose, in France, especially that considering that Charlie Hebdo has self-censored from anti-Semitic cartoons in the past. So it's this double standard about free expression. I think what Muslims desire is that if free expression is be consistent, that Muslims have the same rights to express themselves, or at least be protected as other minorities are protected.
Abdullah, just bear with us, because we're just going to bring you some pictures from Paris, some live pictures from Paris. This is a ceremony taking place involving President Hollande to commemorate the police officers who died in the attack on the Charlie Hebdo officers, and of course the policewoman who was also killed in the other shooting incident in Paris. This is on the day that the French Parliament is said to be considering further additional anti-terrorism laws, and of course 10,000 police officers on the streets of France as part of the response to the shootings. As our correspondent in Paris, Hugh Schofield, was saying just a little while ago, the first time that more French troops have been deployed in France itself than elsewhere around the world. So that ceremony to commemorate the police officers who died taking place right now in Paris. With us here still, the Islamic affairs specialist Abdullah al Andalusi. Abdullah, you were talking just a second ago about the feeling amongst French Muslims that there are double standards at work in France. Do you think that, in bringing this back to the Charlie Hebdo magazine and the content of that magazine, that the reaction there from the magazine was against what they may be perceived as a Muslim community feeling that it needed to that it was more? I beg your pardon, I've lost my train of thought here, Abdullah. But do you feel that the magazine was pushing back against what it saw as a greater sensitivity among the Muslim community than other communities to perceived injustices, real or not?
Well, I mean, if that was the case, why don't we see Charlie Hebdo push back against the sensitivities, perhaps, of anti-Semitism and so on? But they don't. It's very selective. And sure, I believe that no community should be vilified, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, or anyone based on race or whatever delineation. But it's this double standards, which is very obvious, especially how the French government have prosecuted individuals for expressing their ideas when it's deemed anti-Semitic, so comedians, self-censorship, and there are many things which Muslims are denied expression, as in the choice of clothing, both in school, which they pay taxes for, as well as outside the school in the public arena. So I think these grievances are extremely real. And it's not just limited to France. Even in England, many Muslims have been indicted and prosecuted for expressing opinions which are not inciting to hatred or violence. For example, Azhar Ahmed, for example, he wrote on Facebook that British soldiers should burn in hell. A wrong thing to say, but he was indicted for that expression of speech, whereas if he hadn't been a Muslim, he might not have got that same reaction.
It's perhaps too early for this question, but you're painting a picture of a country where it's going to be extremely difficult to try to engender the sort of cross-community effort that's needed to ensure that people from different backgrounds, faiths, ethnicities, etc., can live peacefully together.
Well, no, it's just a matter of will. If people truly believed in free speech, the first people they should be championing the right to express themselves are the most discriminated minorities, such as the Muslim community in France. Let your champions for free speech have demonstrations protesting against persecution of Muslims for expressing political dissent or ideas deemed extremist, which now politicians are arbitrarily defining as and dictating to the masses, which is very worrying times when the government is deciding who is the modern day heretic and doing witch hunts against them. And I think this is something very concerning. And if the champions really of free speech really believe in it, they should be championing the Muslim right to express our opinions.
Fundamentally, therefore, do the writers, the journalists, the columnists, the cartoonists of Charlie Hebdo have a right to put that front cover, to publish the front cover that's going to be hitting the newsstands tomorrow?
Well, I mean, according to French law, they have a right. But I believe it was Mark Twain said that, we have two things. We have freedom of expression and the wisdom never to use it to its full, its full sense. And I think it's wisdom that's basically required, especially considering that there are certain minorities who are currently undergoing persecution, victimization, and many negative things against them. Trying to be sensitive to them, to relieve the kind of stereotypes against them, the demonization of them. I think that kind of wisdom should be used by editors so that they don't create and fan problems in the society, but actually try to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Okay, Abdullah al Andalusi, thank you very much.
Sure.